Okay everybody, welcome finally to another video, and this time I was inspired by a user on YouTube and also a Rate Your Music user called Darcy Ska, and check out his videos under that name on YouTube because he's doing a lot of album reviews right now, and he kind of inspired me to kind of recheck out this band and this album. There it is in all its glory, and it's almost like the sun's having mercy on us. It's trying to block out the cover art. Really ugly cover, but I get really nostalgic about this record because this came out, I believe I was still in middle school, and I hadn't formed all my musical opinions yet and all that, and Sum 41, I don't think they were ever my favorite band, but they were definitely one of my favorites when this came out. And, you know, before I decided on 311 and Incubus, those became my favorites in high school, and then my favorites, you know, and then I was introduced to shoegaze and then prog rock, and, you know, then I started to appreciate rap because I realized rap wasn't just 50 Cent and what was played on the radio. There were lots of talented rappers, but I digress. And yeah, so Sum 41, and I was aware of this earlier, but they had announced that, you know, this last tour, this upcoming tour will be their last, and I guess the album is still in the can. I'm not sure if they're still working on it or if it is just waiting to be released, because they did say a year or two ago that they had a double album coming out called Heaven and Hell, I believe, and yeah, so I believe it's a double album that will probably, you know, deal with the light and the dark, or, you know, think of what the Foo Fighters did on In Your Honor. When I think Heaven and Hell, I think the Hell side will be very, very heavy, and the Heaven side might be lighter, maybe more like their roots, like this album, which is kind of their poppiest one for sure. But we'll see what it is. And, you know, I hadn't really listened to Sum 41 in years, and I hadn't listened to one of their albums front to back in a long time, but this aforementioned user, who is definitely in my top 3 for, you know, album reviews and music related content, he was doing a video on their debut. Some would say their debut, and some would say it's an EP. I always thought it was their debut album, Half Hour of Power, because even though it is only about half an hour, so is this one. And they called it All Killer No Filler kind of as a joke, I guess, because, you know, you don't really have that much time for any filler. So, yeah, so I still count Half Hour of Power as their debut, but some sites like Rate Your Music consider it an EP. I can't remember what Wikipedia says, but it seems really 50-50 split. And but the amount of songs, and it's a punk record. I mean, it's not going to be 45 minutes. It's definitely not going to be 60 minutes. So I think of it as their debut, and this their second album. So I'll probably go with that criteria going forward. But probably, you know, like I said, it's a divisive enough opinion. So, but yeah, this is, I was definitely aware of Sum 41 when Makes No Difference was rocking the radio stations, and the video got play on Much Music. I remember I owned Big Shiny Tunes 5, and you could get Sum 41's Makes No Difference on that. And, you know, it was one of the many highlights off the Big Shiny Tunes for those American viewers and those not in the know, European and every other viewer. Unless you're Canadian, you're not going to know what Big Shiny Tunes is. Big Shiny Tunes was this compilation album of just rock tunes from the year, all different artists. Lots of Canadian bands, maybe like 33% or so, and just kind of the quote-unquote best of the rock genre for the year, and Much Music was the, you know, was the push behind it. Like, they were putting out the Big Shiny Tunes. And usually they did select some really good, you know, performances, some really good singles from the year that, you know, blew up in music video form. Though there is probably one contradiction to that, where they put a song on that didn't have a video, and I'm like, well, it's Much Music, though. And usually they were, you know, reputable bands. There's always one bad song on every Big Shiny Tunes, but they were really good up till the 5th or 6th volume. So this starts with Introduction to Destruction, which is kind of a spoken word thing. It's only 37 seconds long. It goes right into Nothing on My Back, and already, if you're listening to this discography in order, and I listened to this back to back with Half Hour of Power in order, it's very prominent. Like it's very obvious that the production value had gone up. The band was getting better at writing choruses, or at least that was more their focus, to do catchy earworm choruses. And they always had that heavy metal leaning, and it comes out on the EP. Like they had this fictional band going, and this happens later on in this record, but they kind of were softening a little bit, because they kind of were doing this kind of more for a mass audience, I guess you could say. Nothing on My Back is extremely catchy. It could have easily been a single. Then you got Never Wake Up, which is 50 seconds of just higher energy, shouting, and rock. And then you have Fat Lip, which was the first single from this one, and their second really official single, second video. And for a lot of people, that's the first Sum 41 song they remember hearing, though a lot of people do know Makes No Difference, which is, one of the band's best songs to this day. And Fat Lip is, a very energetic, fun, catchy chorus coupled with, rapped, Beastie Boys-esque lyrics and verses. And, they explored that on It's What We're All About from Half Hour of Power, which was two songs in one, but the second half was very rap and Beastie Boys oriented. And even in the video for Fat Lip, they referenced It's What We're All About, and they rap about what their name is and their role and what it means and what they're inspired by and all that. It's it's not going to turn any heads, but it sure is fun, and it sure works on Fat Lip, that's for sure. Rhythms follows that one, and it's, I thought it was the second longest. It's the third longest song on the record, and it's just shy of 3 minutes. And, I don't have much bad to say about these. I mean, I remember loving these when I was a kid, and then really falling out of it for more serious music, like Pink Floyd and stuff like that. And, Yes, and, all these great bands that, were doing, big statements, Bruce Springsteen, the voice, the lyrics, Bob Dylan, and it's kind of like, Sum 41, I never thought they sucked, though. A lot of people have their favorite bands in middle school, and then you talk to them 2 years later, and you're like, oh, Green Day's putting out a new record, and they go, they suck, I don't like them, and I'm like, but they were your favorite band, you had pins on, people, they like to disregard the past, and I always like to, unless there's a huge wrongdoing, like I can't listen to Lost Prophets anymore. But any other band I liked, it's like I like them for a reason, and like I don't put Sum 41 on very often, but I enjoyed this. It's not gonna reinvent the wheel, but it's a fun listen. Motivation follows it up, and that's with you got Greg Norrie on backing vocals, and he's from Trouble Charger. Frontman of Trouble Charger. He helped them out quite a bit and produced for them and played guitar a little bit on some of these tracks, but you can hear him on backing vocals. Motivation was the third single. Moreover, the second single was In Too Deep, and that's probably my least favorite from the record, but it's a really catchy song, and it's got a really cool chord progression. Nothing really bad about it. It's just I didn't like the video. I thought it was really silly, even though I love Back to School. I love that Rodney Dangerfield picture. Movie. I would say picture, and it makes me sound like I'm living in the 60s or something. Summer follows, and Summer is a re-recording of a track from Half Hour of Power. Why they chose this one to dust off, I'm not sure. It's a really catchy, great pop-punk song. It doesn't deviate much from their formula that was established on this album. It's nice to hear it with better production. I like both versions, of course. Half Hour of Power is very rough and kind of held back by restrictions of production and budget in the studio, but I like both versions. They're both good. I just think it's weird that they didn't choose, like, Machine Gun or something to dust off and re-record, but maybe I just think that's a really cool song. I would definitely put it in my top 10, Sum 41 Machine Gun, but Summer's no slouch. It's a good song. Handle This, I always thought, because when I bought this, I think Fat Lip was the only single, and then I already knew In Too Deep was going to be a single because I knew they were filming a video for it. But Handle This, I thought, that's got to be the third single. That's going to be a huge hit. And it didn't come out as the third single, and there was so much momentum, I thought maybe it'll be the fourth single, but before you knew it, a third album was coming out, Does This Look Infected, with a little bit of a harder edge, but we'll get to that someday. I was going to say something else about Handle This. Anyway, it's a great song. I'm pretty sure that, and I checked before the video, but of course my memory is kind of mush. Greg, capital G Nori, they gave him a nickname. Yeah, so he plays guitar on Handle This. And because I love early Treble Charger, I always like the connection between the two bands. Though it seemed like Greg Nori was trying to make them more poppy and marketable, and it was funny because he was kind of doing that at the same time with his band, which was kind of pissing off the other lead guy, the other lead songwriter from the group, Bill Priddle, and kind of downplayed his role after a while because he didn't really believe in what the band was doing. He didn't want to be pop punk. He wanted to do that alt rock thing that they had going. You know, they were more like a more digestible Sonic Youth or something. And I mean, his big song Red is very Neil Young-esque. But you know, I digress. Anyway, Handle This is definitely one of the highlights. Crazy Amanda Bunkface is great. All She's Got, I mean, it's just good catchy pop punk. What can you really say about it? The only really bad thing you can say is the awful album art, but I mean, you know, the pop punkers and all the Warped Tour bands and everything, you could get merch. I miss that, and I miss all the lyrics. But all the Warped Tour bands and bands that were, you know, post Green Day, Blink-182 included, like, they were marketed as very sophomoric, and, you know, they were always looking at women a certain way, and, you know, skateboarding and singing about getting dumped, and, you know, advertising they were drinking a lot, and made very sophomoric music videos, and were on soundtracks to dumb shit like Van Wilder and stuff like that. Just awful teen movies. You'd hear these fun pop punk songs, and let's see, I was gonna say, because I was listening to this, like I said, earlier today, and Heart Attack, which was the one song that didn't really stand out to me, really stood out to me as one of, if not the highlight. I really like that one, and then of course it goes right into Pain for Pleasure, where they're playing this role of this fictional metal band, and they have the chops. I mean, they're playing it for laughs, but they're playing those speedy early Iron Maiden riffs. I mean, they often cited Maiden as a huge influence, including on one of these songs, Fat Lip. And, you know, they really do a good job. I mean, the cheesiest part is probably the vocals and the lyrics, but they're supposed to be, and it's a lot of fun. And because Fat Lip is only about a 3-minute song, they got to tack on Pain for Pleasure in the music video, and that kind of makes it one of the band's better music videos, because like a lot of bands from this era, most of the videos were pretty garbage, I would say. And that became even more true, I think, as their career went on. But I mean, I say that as someone that's not a huge fan of rock band videos, but there are definitely a lot of obsessions. Objections? No, there's definitely a lot of contradictions to that statement I just made. So, yeah, I mean, it's, what, 30 minutes? I didn't time it. It's like 32 minutes of music, or maybe it's only 29 minutes. It's all killer, no filler. It's Sum 41. And, yeah, good band from Ajax, Ontario. You know, if you're nostalgic for it, it's a good time. It's not gonna, you know, reinvent the wheel, like I said earlier, and I think they became a little more mature and better songwriters on the maybe the next album, though I'm not sure if I like it more or not. That's the funny thing. But this is just fun pop punk. I mean, that's all you really need sometimes. And you know, they're bratty and they're brash, and but Derek Cohn, Steve, and Brown Sound did a good job, and I gotta say, as their career went on, I kind of missed the lineup of these four, because, you know, they made 4 or 5 albums together, and then, you know, Brown Sound Dave left, and eventually Steve, the drummer, left, and I really felt they were never the same. They didn't really get it back, but I would love to hear what they came up with next, because, you know, I fell off when Chuck came out. I heard it, but it wasn't my favorite like it is everyone else's. So that requires a revisit, and the next album, Underclass Hero, was, I couldn't stand it, to be honest, but yeah, Sum 41. All killer, no filler. Good stuff. Just catchy pop punk. That's really all you need. And something I don't talk about on my channel, but just fun stuff for fans of Green Day, and even though they don't sound like Blink-182, also fans of Blink-182. So thanks so much for watching. Tell me your favorite Sum 41 track, and track from this album. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks so much, everybody.